Hey guys, it's Jimbo's Grapes here, and today we're going to be doing another tutorial. This one is going to be about industry. So, essentially, what I'll be talking about is how to go from nothing to producing, where you're making T1 to T1 to T4 gear, as well as mechs and all of that stuff. So, to begin with, in order to build anything, the first thing you need to do is to research it. So in order to research something, you have to get what's called kernels, and then you research these and turn them into what's known as research points. So the way that you get kernels is with anything you can buy it on the market, but the main way you're going to get kernels is through fighting NPCs. Whatever type of NPC you're fighting, they'll drop their respective kernels. So if you're fighting a Thelodica mech or a Pellistal mech, they'll drop yellow and green kernels respectively. Just to give a little bit of extra information, heavy mechs that are tier 5 drop the most kernels. Light mechs that are tier 5 also drop a lot of kernels, factional kernels. And then tiers 1 to 3 will drop common kernels, and tiers 4 and 5 will drop high-tech kernels. Obviously, the higher the better. So if you were looking for, say, mass common kernels as well as factional kernels, if you can kill stuff fast and you have a lot of DPS, the best way to do that would be to farm level 3 mechs and heavy mechs. Another tutorial video that I'm going to hopefully put out soon will be on doing taps, doing light taps with only a few accounts. That's also a really good way to get kernels, especially if you do tier 5 taps. You can really get a lot of factional kernels and high tech, and you can also get a lot of common doing the tier 1 taps. So in order to get kernels, in order to get research points, you have to get the kernels. So if you wanted to say, what's something that I could research? Say I wanted to research tier 3 light shields. Actually, let's go with tier 3 medium shields. I would need 12,500 common and 12,500 Pellistal. So I'll do that. Okay, and research. Okay, and research. And now you can see it's lit up, it's no longer red, and I can now research it. Sort of obvious, but in case you didn't know, you do have to research the prior things before you can unlock the higher tier stuff. So down here is the tier 1, up here is tier 10. In order to get these unlocked, you also have to go into your agent profile, your extensions, and it'll be under industry. So in order to even get these so that you could unlock them, you have to have research. So for this one, it'll be Pellistal research. Fairly easy to research. You can see to get from level 9 to level 10s, only 6,000 EP, so it's not too bad with the 1 complexity. To go from level 8 to level 9 is only 2,700, so it's not a huge EP requirement to get up there, but you do have to do it for common, industrial, and each of the 3 races. So it can get up there if you're going to be doing it for all 6 possible or all 5 possible options. Okay? So once you've researched something, you can then do what's called prototyping. So if you right click on this, you can prototype it. Now, before I get into that, another thing, you'll notice that these have a gold or a yellow border around them. That's because we've also got these researched in our corp. If you have something researched in your corp, the prototype cost, that's what this is right here, is half. So normally it's 10 times the cost of the item, but if you have the corp research as well, it's only 5 times the cost of the item, plus your fragments. And the fragments that you need for requirement will also be half. So if you have a corp with all the corp research done, you're going to be a lot more efficient at prototyping. And you also get a bonus to the materials efficiency, but we'll get into that later. So, in order to build something, you have to prototype it. And to prototype something, it requires one of the prior lower tech level item and all of the requirements for it. So you can see here a tier 2 prototype requires a tier 1 a tier 2 missile launcher tuning requires a tier 1 missile launcher tuning plus all of the requirements. So this will be what 5 times the cost of a regular one is, plus the fragments. You only have to invest the fragments once to build a prototype. Otherwise, to actually manufacture the things in mass production, it requires just these resources. Okay? So another thing that you're going to want to know that's really important so that you don't waste a lot of resources on it is for tier 1 items, you don't need to prototype them if you can buy them off the market or get them off of NPCs. What we're going to talk about next is reverse engineering, and in order to reverse engineer something, it has to be a tier 2 or higher prototype or a tier 1 base weapon. Now this also works with ammo. Ammo, you don't need to research it. You can just prototype, or you can just grab a bundle of regular ammo and you can reverse engineer it. Okay? And it doesn't work with robots. For robots, you have to have a prototype in order to reverse engineer it. So that probably gets very nicely into the next section, which is reverse engineering. So once you've researched it and once you've built your prototype, some prototypes take quite a long time to build. Like, we'll just grab a random one here. See, this takes 1 day and 2 hours. And I have like decent skills in industry on this account, so it's a pretty long process. It's something that you want to really think ahead about and not wait too long on doing it, because whenever you do eventually get the research done and start prototyping, you're still going to have to wait some amount of time in order to get it. But once you've got a prototype done, I know I've got prototypes here somewhere, over here. Once you've got a prototype done, and again, it can be a prototype or a tier 1 piece of equipment. It has to be in your private storage. Actually, you might be able to do it out of this, but you know, it's might have to be in your private storage. You're going to go to reverse engineering. Okay, so in order to reverse engineer, you have to have a prototype or a tier 1 item or ammo and what's called a decoder. So decoder, you also get these from either artifacting. I believe right now, as of making this video, it might be difficult to get decoders from artifacting, so just keep that in mind. The main way you're going to get decoders is from farming NPCs. So NPCs drop decoders up to twice their tier level. So for example, a first star Nimquil mech can drop up to tier 2 decoders, whereas a 5th star Nimquil mech can drop up to tier 10 decoders. Okay, so they can basically drop twice their rank worth of decoder. Now for me, in order to keep things simple, what I like to do, you can see I've got a bunch of decoders here. What I like to do is I like to go whatever level is needed plus 2. If you go with a higher level, you get a bonus. Okay, so you can see it goes to 105. If I were to put a level 10 decoder in here, it goes up to 120. So what the material and time ratio is, the material ratio is how good it is, how good it is for efficiency with building stuff, which honestly doesn't really matter that much. The time ratio is how fast it builds. Again, from 1 to 120, it's not really that big of a difference, and I mean, it's just more time. Like, you know, you have infinite amount of time. If you were immortal, that is. And again, the material ratio from something that is a 1 to something that is 100, it's not a huge difference. So the main reason that you want a high material and time ratio is because this is how many runs you can do when you actually start building the item. So if I go with a level 7 decoder and I've got 105, that means when I throw this in the factory, I can build 105 of these. So if I go with a level 10 decoder, I can build 120 of these. So you're able to mass produce more if you if you're a little bit more generous with your decoders. If you're only to go with the minimum requirements, well, now I can only build 95. And as you get higher in tech level, I'll reopen this, and we'll throw in a tier 4. Let's see if I can do this out of here. So you can, okay. So I'll throw in a tier 4 item. So you notice that the other one was 95 when I put in the minimum required decoder level. On this one, if I put this in, it's only 85. So you need to consider that, okay? So the reason that I go 2 levels higher, like I said, is you get a bit more efficiency out of it, and it keeps it so that all of my CTs are in line with each other. Alright, I've done some reverse engineering, and what I like to do is I like to have one that's 95, my tier 4, 100, 105, and then 110. The reason that I do that is because sometimes it can be very difficult to find tier 2 and tier 3 items, which you need for prototyping. So if you build a couple extra tier 3 and tier 2 items, then whenever you need to build more of this item and prototype them, you can do it a lot faster. Obviously that's not required, it's just something that I personally do, and it makes the cycle of production go a lot smoother when you have a lot of these tier 3 items in order to prototype. So you can see I've got basically extra of everything that I make in here, so that if I need to, I can just start prototyping again really quickly and constantly have prototypes going so that if needed, I can start building stuff right away. Okay, so now that we've reverse engineered and we've got our that produces what's called a CT, you can then take the CT, I'll just grab this one for example, and go to your factory. Okay? So once you're in your factory, you can grab the CT and drag it into here. And then once you've got it in there, where is that one? Right here. Now you can start building. So this right here, in order to get higher amounts, it's another skill. All of these skills that are related to this will be under industry. So parallel processing allows you to make more do more reverse engineering at the same time. Material efficiency is self-explanatory. It adds more to your material ratio. You can see at Hirschfield, my material ratio is 68, which is fairly high, but it's a lot higher if you go to Beta Islands. Well, not a lot higher, but decently higher. Production lines, this is how many lines you have in your factory. Okay, this is one that's you're probably going to be putting a lot into because you do need to be building. If you're going to be building a lot, you need a lot of factory lines. This is the one right here, Program Max Production. This is what allows me to make 80 at a time. Okay, so it doesn't make 80 simultaneously, but it will continue to make until 80 are made. So if I threw in 80 in here, it's going to take 8 days to make all of those because each one takes a decent bit of time. Okay. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is the prototyping parallel processing. This allows you to make more prototypes at a time. Okay, and reverse engineering. Okay, so I got those two mixed up, but yeah, it's these ones are pretty self-explanatory. You just click on them, look at what they are, and they're fairly straightforward. So you can look at these and figure out what you need for yourself. Okay, so you go into here. You've got your materials, and then you decide how many you want to make, you manufacture them, and then you'll start to make items. Now, how you get these is through refining. And with refining, you have to get, you get through refining or recycling. So with that, you have to mine or harvest basic materials. Okay? So if I look at this, and I look at the components, and one thing that you'll notice if you're building particular classes is that there's a lot of patterns between these. So, for example, all heavy mechs require bryokite, allegor, aspidium, and hydrobenol. They also require the same amount of metacropin, isopropentol, stachinol. I'm probably saying all these wrongs, and you can see the pattern here, right? With these ones. Now, that's because blue mechs only require stuff that can be made from blue islands. So if I go to refinery and I look at stachinol, for example, it requires imentium, which is something that you get on the blue islands. If I look at colonin, prismosity, something like that. Again, only on blue islands. Polynucleate, or sorry, polynucleol. Again, Amantium and Heliopterus. You will not find anything under the blue items that requires, what's the other one? Triandulus. That's this guy right here. And I believe it's also Silgium that is not on blue islands. So none of the blue bots require those things. And I'm probably going to look at this and it's probably going to be wrong because these guys take a lot of random stuff. I don't think they do. Okay, so you get these raw resources, which are all of these ones here. Sorry, up to here. You've got your 4 plants, Heliopterus, Triandulus, Prismositae, and Neuralgus, and then you've got your ores. So these 3 are the factional ones, okay? Neuralgus is universal. These 3 ores are the factional ones. Titan ore is universal, and the 3 liquids are all universal, so they're all going to be used in everything. So if you're a miner and you're into industry, everybody's always going to need Titan, everybody's always going to need Neuralgus, and everybody's always going to need these 3 liquids because they're universal, they're used in almost everything, and they're used in a lot of the main stuff that's used to build pretty much every item in the game. Okay? If you're in industry and you want to build specific things, then you can look at that and get these ones, but these ones are way less needed than Titan, HDT, Liquizit, Eperton, and Neuralgus. The 3 plants, same thing. You can see I've got a lot less of these than I have of everything else. These plants will last me for a very long time. You don't use the plants super much, so yeah, I'm pretty much good on those. Now, back to refining. So once you've got your materials, you go to your refinery, and it's very simple. It tells you the things that you need and then how much you want to make. So say I wanted to make a mesmer, I would have to go in here, get my stational, create 5,000. It'll be different once you actually put it in the factory. I don't think I've got any empty lines right now, but for me, it's usually about 10% more than this, 10 to 20% more than this. So I'll need somewhere between 5,500 and 6,000 stational to make a mesmer. So yeah, and then you just refine it, and then once you've refined everything that you need and you've got the appropriate amount of refined materials, you can go in here and you can produce your item just by hitting manufacture. And if you want to, you can type in a higher number. This is what I personally do. I'll type in a high number. I will refine all of the materials that I'll need. I'll manufacture it, and then 8 days later I'll come back and then all my stuff will be built for me. Okay? Another method of getting materials is to recycle. So I've actually got a recycle box right here. I like to kind of build it up a little bit and then recycle all of it at once because it makes me feel good inside. Obviously for yourselves, you can just recycle stuff as you go. I try to keep at least 100 of every item because I produce pretty much everything. And it does reduce the costs by a lot to skip the tier 1 process. Okay? So just keep that in mind when you're going to recycle. Don't go too crazy because some of the stuff that you recycle might actually be better just to keep to yourself. So if I were to recycle all of this right now, that's what I would get. Honestly, not a ton of stuff. The big thing that you want to recycle for is titanium because it's going to suck up all of your Titan ore, and that stuff is used for everything. I always need Titan ore. So yeah, that's the majority of it. So again, just a little recap. In order to start, you have to have something researched. Then you prototype it. Then once you've prototyped it, you reverse engineer it. Then once you've reverse engineered it, you go into your factory and you throw it in your factory, and then you can build it after you've refined the materials that you need. Okay? So I know I didn't get into super in-depth detail here, but hopefully this will help some people see how easy it is to manufacture, and hopefully a lot of people can get into this and start manufacturing more and build a lot of stuff. So one last thing I'll say is in order to actually build something, all that you need is the CT. You don't actually have to prototype in CT yourself. The CTs are tradable. So if I were to say give somebody, where is it? If I were to give somebody all of my universal armor CTs, these ones right here, they'd be able to produce universal armors. They don't have to have it researched. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. Again, you can see the yellow in here. I get an extra bonus 50 to a material ratio. Once this gets to 0 though, you cannot produce any more of it. It'll say worn out just like this one. And then you can extract it. Extracting is something that you might want to do once gamma islands come back, because you can then combine CTs to make them have more production, but that's another story. So what I do is I just delete the calibration. I just delete all of these ones that are worn out so that I've got more space to do more industry. Okay, and you just keep at it and then sell stuff on the market. You know, you're gonna have to price stuff for yourselves. Myself, I have a huge worksheet that I have where I've got all of the prices for what the materials are to build everything, and then what it costs to build everything. That's how I price stuff. Rule of thumb, and this is a very general rule. Heavy mechs, if you sell them for 10 million nick, you're probably making a profit. Sorry, not heavy mechs, regular mechs. If you're selling heavy mechs for 50 million, you're probably making a profit. If you sell tier 4 modules for 3 million, you're probably making a profit. So I know the market prices are quite a bit higher than that as of this video, but just so you know, if you're selling stuff at around that, you're probably making a profit anyways. So again, I really hope you guys found this helpful. I know there wasn't a lot of animation and it was kind of a quick run through, but just hopefully it'll clear up some stuff and we'll get more industrious lovers bacon stuff. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Talk to you later.